everybody needs to find their tribe. For me, that was the jd-mba folks coming into Kellogg, like having this base of friends essentially to navigate it with was huge.
You made your way through the military. You ascended ranks. You're a ground intelligence officer. How does all of this prepare you for business school and ultimately you made the choice for business school and law school? So how did the skills that you picked up in the military apply when you were a student? Did you feel adequately prepared? I mean, you'd been challenged so thoroughly, but did you feel adequately prepared by the time you got to business school?
I ultimately ended up at Kellogg, the 3-year jd-mba. You apply through the business school. There's not a spot on the application for an LSAT score where you submit a GRE or a GMAT. I think the business school reviews the application, and then the law school ultimately gives sign off if the business school decides they want you to be part of the cohort. So I did the first year out of being in the Marines at the law school entirely, second year entirely at Kellogg, and then the third year was kind of back and forth. Back in residence at the law school, but I took a handful of Kellogg classes too. Kellogg is big on group projects, big on teamwork. It's something they market heavily, and it's something that is pretty true to form throughout the experience. We were a well-oiled machine in that first couple months in that class, and we had a rhythm of we all reviewed the case we needed to review. We all had our own thoughts about it. We came in, we had structured dialogue about it. We rotated who was responsible for the due out. It was all stuff that was pretty much second nature to me at that point. How you do this small group function, and that for me, given my experience as an intelligence officer and working with small analytical cells, stuff like that prepared me exceedingly well for I think how to work through at least the beginning of Kellogg and beyond.
You could have taken many paths with the jd-mba. You ultimately chose the law, but why don't you take us through your thought process while you were in school on which way you wanted to go, and maybe tell us a little bit more about where the class, generally speaking, went.
Yeah, so at least in Northwestern, historically, for the jd-mba cohort class, there are 25 per class, I think, on average. Historically, about 55% end up going law, at least to start off, and then 45% end up going on the business side. I think my class ended up shaking out to about 80 law, 20% business side. So that was just an interesting dynamic, but personality driven. But for me, like you get in and everybody says like, hey, don't feel like you have to practice law just because you're getting a law degree. But when the rubber hits the road, you're getting the degree. You're kind of going through that experience. You want to practice law, or at least that's how I experienced it. So I did 1L at the law school. That's the first part of the program. Also, the recruiting cycle for law school is such that on-campus interviews are at the end of the 1L summer. So essentially for jd-mbas who are doing a 3-year program, typically you have to make this decision before even starting at the business school about whether you want to practice law, because typically those 2L summer jobs and same for consulting and baking, they pretty much translate into full-time offers. So it's a bit of a strategic decision, but for me, it just ultimately I wanted to practice law, so I started talking to firms and ultimately ended up wanting to come back home to the DC area. It's been great so far. I'm about 4 months in, still getting ramped up on client matters and all that, but great environment, great group of folks, and kind of excited for the runway. Yeah.
Looking back now, how connected are you to your class and your school now that you're a grad? How much of a role does Kellogg and your tight-knit jd-mba class play in your ongoing life?
Yeah, that's a big thing. The tight-knit aspect of the jd-mba class. It's a small cohort, and again, I think different schools structure it in different ways. Like I think for like Harvard and Darden, you have your 70 to 90 person like case class that you're going through everything with. You get close with them. I had a buddy at MIT Sloan where you have a group of 7 who they're basically your case group, and you're prepping for everything with them. And the biggest thing is that everybody needs to find their tribe. For me, that was the jd-mba folks, and even starting at the law school, coming into Kellogg, like having this base of friends essentially to navigate it with was huge. And I still keep in touch with everybody. Solid Crew came to my wedding a few months ago. I hang out with people who are in DC on the weekends, whether that's some from Kellogg's or from the jd-mba cohort. It's pretty important. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from going to business school, is investing in those relationships, and not even just for potential business down the road or whatever, but it's just for an enriching life, and it's been enriching to my life. I'll say that.